Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliox, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat. And this week we're joined by John Wall, who's going to be my co-host, and Faith Lillamo, who's our volunteer coordinator here at the Warrior Retreat. And we're going to take some time during this episode to talk about all the different volunteer opportunities that we have here at the Warrior Retreat and the events coming up, different ways that our community can help us out here at the Warrior Retreat. So John and Faith, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
John, if you would, just take a minute or so to just tell our listeners a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I appreciate this opportunity. I spent 21 years in the United States Navy, and I was, a couple years ago, I was deployed and recently was sustained a traumatic brain injury while I was deployed, and that led me to some recovery time at Walter Reed. And while I was at Walter Reed, I was able to connect with the Willing Warrior Retreat and spend some time here. And then that's been a couple years, and here I am as a co-host with you, Larry. So I appreciate it.
It's awesome. I'm just so happy to have you. So I don't have to ask all the questions. That's great. Yeah, you and your wife, Erin, joined us for a stay, which was great. And then you've been volunteering here for a good while now, too.
Yeah, for a few years. After we stayed here, we took some downtime, and then did the whole transition process, got back into the workforce, and then when we can, we come out to the events and support them and volunteer and do what we can. So.
Well, it's always good to have alumni involved, and fortunately, you live in the area, which is great. Faith, let's talk a little bit about your role here at the retreat and how you coordinate the volunteers.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Larry. I love what I do. As a volunteer coordinator, my goal is to promote the mission statement that we have, which is to provide the cost-free retreat stays and other programs that positively impact the lives of the wounded, ill, and injured military service members, veterans, and their families through coordinating volunteers. So the volunteers are the heart of this organization. We only have 7 part-time staff, and everything that gets done here is done by volunteers. So what that looks like is on Wednesdays, we have the most volunteers coming to reset the retreat center for the next guest days. We have grounds team people, we have maintenance people coming, we have staging crews, getting the houses prepared, making beds, putting out presents and gifts for the families that are coming. It takes a village to make this retreat center happen. And so what I do is I coordinate 13 different areas of volunteerism under the direct supervision of our operations director, Diane Polk. So I coordinate with her to see what the needs are and see where the volunteers are needed most. So right now, if I were to go over the 13 different areas, we have admin volunteers that come in. We have bakers on call that will bake goods for guest stays. And also when we have our Mighty Oaks PTS counseling groups that come in, they bake a lot of bars and cookies. It's fantastic. We have community ambassadors that are people who help us with table events, they help with tours, and they talk to people about the retreat and what we're doing and try to partner with more companies in the community, more individuals, help us to grow in strength and numbers. Also give people a sense of community and feel like they're doing a good thing. We also have volunteers that help specifically with events, fundraising. We have gardening people. We have both a flower garden and an organic vegetable garden on site here. We have our grounds team members, and we have guest services, guest stay coordinators who act as liaisons between the retreat and the guest stays. They actually help coordinate and talk to the warriors that come in and help create an itinerary so that things run smoothly and that the warrior knows what to expect when they get here. We also partner with different activity
Activity providers.
Yeah, activity
in the
providers.
community.
Right. And so the guest stay coordinator acts as a liaison to set up activities for the warrior and his or her families.
Mm-hmm.
We also have house prep and staging volunteers. We have maintenance volunteers, both indoor maintenance and outdoor maintenance, working on our lawnmowers and fixing things. We have photography volunteers, and we have sous chefs that volunteer. So it's pretty amazing, and we continue to grow. And if people have more ideas of different areas that we need to have a volunteer crew, people are welcome to give me some new ideas. I'd be happy to hear it.
Great. How many volunteers do we have, roughly?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I worked with 1,300 last year, and that is touch points. Some of them come one time for a beautification day, which our beautification days are a way to volunteer on one Saturday per month from 9 to noon, March through November. And people can sign up for that through Sign Up Genius on our website. But some people I see weekly, and some people I see only once a year. They come at Christmas time to help set up for Christmas. So in total, I counted 1,300. Now, on a weekly basis, it's 40 to 50 people.
Wow, that's amazing, Faith. That is just awesome. I didn't realize, it takes like truly not a village or community, but a whole county come out here and take care of the grounds, and it's so amazing, so beautiful. It gives you that appreciation of when you stay here. Now you know what really goes into the place and how many people come out here and really work really hard. And obviously it's all volunteer, donations and stuff. So we're definitely staying here myself. That's a huge blessing, and we probably couldn't do that, right, and be where we're at today as an organization. I have a quick question for you. So out of the 1,300, is it typically individuals or is it organizations? Are they just in the state of Virginia? Are they outside of the Virginia? I know it's a loaded question.
It's a wonderfully loaded question. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Well, here's what that number comprises. It comprises individuals that help on a weekly basis. It comprises families that come out on beautification days, community service organizations that come out on beautification days. It comprises corporate groups that come and have their own separate service day. I set up about 50 different community service days for companies and community service organizations such as churches, scouts, soccer teams, and whatnot to come on the property and work on a specific project. That's in addition to our beautification days, which is in addition to our weekly volunteers that come every Wednesday and Thursday and hit the reset button and help us make things happen.
So with the beautification days, as you said, they're pretty much monthly between March and November. And our op tempo for our guest days, just so our listeners are clear, we usually do 3 guest days in a row and then take a week off. And it's during that week off on Saturday that we ask the community to come out and help us with the grounds, to put mulch down, to paint, to weed. The place is a weed factory in the summer. So we definitely need help with that. The best way for the community to sign up for a beautification day would be to go through our webpage under events, and there'll be a tab there for beautification day. And it's a Sign Up Genius, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So typically the Sign Up Genius is 100 spaces, but we often get more than that.
That is correct. We used to have only 30 spaces available on our Sign Up Genius, and when I started a little over 3 years ago, I moved it to 100 slots because I realized there were so many individuals, families, and organizations that were contacting me and wanting to come out. So, which is a really great problem to have. We have so many people who are interested in supporting us. So I opened up the slots to 100. And even at that, I still have more people that want to come out. And so what I do is I look at the calendar, which I study a lot. I study our calendar all the time. And I try to place those volunteers in a place where they can support an event that's coming up. Because we need help with setup, we need help with cleanup. And so I just make the match, and there you go.
Sounds like you got this all under control.
Not really. I just work really hard, and it's something I truly enjoy.
That's amazing. Speaking of our listeners, is there any other platforms that they're able to tap into that will get them the information for the retreat so that they can reach out if they need to?
If they go on our willingwarriors.org, our website, and they fill out the volunteer information, it will come to me. So anything at volunteer at willingwarriors.org will come to me. I will respond, and I have a template which goes over the different areas that they can volunteer. Some are needed right now, some are an as-needed basis. So it's best just to talk to me first. I'll help make the match, and I really encourage people to just give something a whirl, and if they want to try another area of volunteering out, to try that too. Some of our volunteers volunteer in 3 to 4 different areas.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
The volunteers that we get on Beautification Day, is there a age limit or anything like that, or we just everybody's welcome?
Well, we love to have families come out. So I encourage, if people have children 5 and up, to bring their children and to volunteer as a family, because it's such a wonderful way to infuse the importance of thinking of others, caring for others, and just how good it feels to serve other people in a good cause.
To kind of instill that giving back mentality in their children.
Absolutely.
And say, hey, doesn't this feel good to help and give back? And I will say that for the little kids, we generally have 2 jobs for them. And number 1 is pick up sticks.
Yes.
Because that's important. We have a lot of sticks all over the grass, and they're not good for the lawnmower, so we need the sticks picked up. And that usually lasts a half an hour or so before they're burnt out on that. But the most important job we have for them is to test the playground equipment, to make sure that it's in working order for the next family and the kids that are coming in a week or so later. And they really wear the equipment out. They put it through its paces, let me tell you.
I have such a good time at Beautification Day. It's really amazing to see the teens that come out and they're shoveling dirt and they're hauling wheelbarrows and working together. We have such a wide variety of teams. We have lacrosse teams, the JROTC teams, to Young Men's Service League groups, to families, to individuals, to corporate groups, all mixed up, comprising usually 75 to 125 people per Beautification Day. We also have a church that comes out, Shepherd of the Hills Church. They come out and bring snacks and waters for everybody, and it's a community effort. People pitch in here, there, and everywhere.
I believe you just recently had a Beautification Day. Is that correct?
Yes, we just launched our first one on March 8th.
That's amazing. And you have another one coming up in the future, I assume?
April 26th.
Okay, awesome.
So one of my favorite groups that comes out is the Young Men's Service League of South Loudon, and they do a number of things for us. One, they put together some more packages for the guests, which are chocolate and graham crackers and marshmallows, because we have 6 fire pits here at the retreat, and they get used constantly, and that's great. That's waiting for them on the counter. But these Young Men's Service Leagues, and there's a bunch of them around. I think it's a nationwide organization, actually.
There's 5 chapters in the area.
5 chapters, yeah.
Correct.
And this is an organization that's made up of young teenage men with their moms, volunteer with their moms. And the moms come out and they work just as hard, if not harder, than the kids. And it's just great to see them out and being here doing something together. I would add, too, that we try to capture as much as that as we can, photographing things, and we create an album on our Flickr page of Beautification Days so that the volunteers who come out, they can download those pictures, they can see, and hopefully share them with their friends and relatives and say, hey, we had a good time out at the Warrior Retreat. Think about going out and volunteering. What are some of the corporate groups that come out that really support us?
Oh, we have some wonderful corporate supporters. We have Juniper, we have Lockheed Martin, we have AWS, we have Novec, we have QBE, we have BAE, we have just a variety of organizations that come out.
Home Depot Foundation?
Oh, the Home Depot Foundation, absolutely. They've been very generous with us. We were able to build they built us a big shed in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
They give to us for many things. With building the Grand Lodge, they've helped put in the flooring
Mm-hmm.
here. They've helped with the mulch that was put out. They come and they bring volunteers, so they donate the money and they provide the volunteers. So Home Depot's pretty amazing that way.
Yeah, and another one that comes to mind is I-66 Express.
Oh, sure.
And the team that works out there on 66 in the express lanes, maintaining them. But boy, they come out with their heavy equipment and their front loaders and everything, and they do jobs for us that, we couldn't really accomplish on beautification day. We just don't have the equipment for it. But they're out here with the skid steer and they're moving. Can think of one time we had a huge tree come down on one of our trails, and the root ball just upended half the trail, and they got down there and pushed it off and filled it in, and they had the trail back in order like in a couple of hours. So they're just a huge, and many of their people are veterans, and we find that a lot with companies that come out to support us. They'll bring their employees out for a service day. It's usually a work day, and many of the employees that come out, AWS, Micron comes out. They have a complete section of veterans, Micron Veterans Organization. So, yeah, we get just some tremendous support.
Well, Micron not only supports us here, but they also serve breakfast at our Warrior Ride. They provide all the food.
Yeah, we'll make sure we don't leave out two organizations that are dear to my heart, and that's PenFed.
Oh, my goodness,
Gosh,
yes.
we wouldn't be here without them. And then also Next Point Group, who I believe helps us with the bike ride, right, every year.
Oh, there are.
Sponsors and
Absolutely.
I'm sure many other things. So I want to make sure we give a shout out to those as well.
Yes.
So.
They're awesome.
Yeah, I believe Next Point is one of our presenting sponsors for the bike ride.
I think they are the presenting sponsor. They're the top of the triangle.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
Well, we couldn't do this not only without the volunteers, but without all the corporate support. We're not getting any federal funding. So I think people out there, our listeners, need to know that that this is a community-supported effort here. We just happen to be the lucky ones that get to take what the community gives us and offer it to the warriors. We're sort of the tip of the spear there, and we're very fortunate to be able, it's not lost on us how lucky we are to be able to do this job and be the ones that say, hey, here's a $6.5 million 37-acre estate for you to enjoy.
Right.
And it's because of the generosity of the community.
And I'd also like to point out that we do have a 94% pass-through rate because we have so many amazing volunteers and corporate groups that support us. We have just a great pass-through rate with when people do donate to us. Most all the money goes to the warriors and their families and programs for them.
Yeah. Well, nobody's getting rich here, that's for sure.
That's good to know, right? Let's be true to what we're here for, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we're just, everybody on staff has this mission in their heart. There's absolutely no doubt about it, and even like Diane has 2 active duty sons in the Army, and we're just so fortunate to be able to do this.
Well, and I have a brother who was in the Army, and my dad was in the Army. My uncles were in the Army, father-in-law who was in the Air Force, and my grandpa was actually in the Air Corps, which I come to learn was before the Air Force was called the Air Force. It was called the Air Corps, which is
Army Air Corps.
Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
I just learned that the other day. Is that neat?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, same for me. We have generational family, both on my family side, on my mom and dad's side, and also on my wife's side. Her family has generational folks who have served. I think even back to the Revolution War, according to my wife and genealogy that she's going through. So, this place is it's amazing. The people here, are just top notch in my opinion. I really believe that. They're just, everybody here is, including volunteers that I've worked with, it's just, they pour their hearts and souls into this place to make sure that the wounded, ill, and injured that come here, and some veterans, I believe we host veterans here too as well, make sure that they they get some downtime. So it's amazing, and I would recommend anybody to definitely get involved and, help the organization out. And if you're a veteran, or even if you're, listening to us out, you're on base somewhere, and, someone that needs to get away from the medical world, reach out.
Yeah, for sure. Most of our volunteers have some form of military connection. And, the overwhelming majority of people out there are good, decent people that want to help. They want to give back. Very often they just don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And we're we get the word out as often as we can. That's what the podcast really is all about. And to say that, if you're in the Northern Virginia area and you'd like to do some volunteering, and to be clear, there's no set requirement when it comes to volunteering. We have volunteers that show up several times a week. We have volunteers that come once a year. When we think of Mary, who does the Christmas setup.
Maureen,
sorry. We have a lot of Marys and Maureens here. So there's no, you're not required a certain amount of volunteer time. You want to come and see what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the story of one of our favorite volunteers who called and said, well, I'd like to do something. I'd like to help somehow. And she said, but, I work all week. And okay, well, what about the weekend? I've got the grandkids on the weekend. And it was sort of like, well, I don't know what we can do, But then it turns out that Bonnie works from home, and she has an amazing pool in her backyard, and it's right near the retreat. And she offers the pool to the guests. And during the summer, we call it Bonnie's Private Pool, and the guest stay coordinator can set up
wonderful
a time for them to go over. And she's very gracious. They have access to the bathroom and towels and some snacks, and they have a great time over there. And that's not something we can offer them here. We don't have a pool, but that's her way of volunteering. And she rarely sets foot when we have volunteer appreciation events. Then she'll come to the retreat and get to see everybody and meet everybody. But she's volunteering from a distance, and she's helping out in that way too.
That's a good point. There's a lot of people who do volunteer that never come and work here during the week or on a monthly basis, but they do things from their homes or in their community groups. For example, we have 5 quilting guilds that give us beautiful quilts to give to the warrior and his or her families. We have a blind nun who knits beautiful blankets with another lady, and that gal brings the blankets in. I mean, talk about inspiring. She can't even see, and here she is knitting quilt blankets for us to give out to the families. I think that's just so beautiful.
That is very beautiful, and that's great. And you know what? I have one. So it's we keep it on our couch at home, and it's just a reminder, And they really, truly, these volunteers pour their hearts into this. And correct me right or wrong, some of them actually, or if not all of them, they pray over those blankets for healing, right? Is that true?
We have a lot of prayer shawls that are prayed over. That is correct. Before they're given to us and then given to the families.
It's a blessing.
And we have a good number of volunteers that do things either here at the retreat or away, but help us in a bunch of different ways, that never get to see or meet the warriors. And that's a special gift when they're willing to give up their time, money, effort to help people they'd never meet or see. And it's another reason why we're very fortunate that in our work here, we get to work directly with the families, and we get to meet the warriors. And best of all, we get to see the difference that this place and the things that our volunteers do make in the lives of these families. It changes them. We see how they look when they get here and how they look when they leave. And sometimes it's almost like a completely different person. And a real shout out to those volunteers that will do that, but never get the gratitude of meeting and seeing the results of their work. And I view them as very special volunteers.
I completely agree with you, Larry. And there are a few ways that those volunteers can see the families. If they go on our Flickr site where we have all our albums in chronological order, they can actually see the families that have been here. They can see the activities, the beautification days. They can see the fundraising events that we do. If people want to see what goes on here, they can absolutely do that by going to our Flickr album.
Mm-hmm. So as we kind of wrap up, I want to kind of end on a couple of notes. One is the best way to learn about the retreat is to come visit the retreat, to take a tour. We can talk all day about the retreat. You can look at pictures of the retreat, but it's a whole different ballgame when you get out here and you see what the warriors see with their families. And so I know, John, if you would just talk for a minute about what the impact was when you first got here, what you thought for you and Aaron when you arrived.
Well, honestly, it was hard to get me here, first of all.
Yes.
Until the wife told me I had to go. And I said, yes, ma'am. No, I mean, once I got here, you know, when I was still at Walter Reed recovering, I had a lot of issues with sensory and stuff like that. And I wasn't sure coming to something like this because I had secluded myself to try to manage my environment so things would not get worse. And, you know, I came here and it actually was, I think,
home away from home dinner, Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, it was a Thanksgiving dinner when I first came here. I hadn't even stayed here. I don't even think I had signed up to stay here at that point. And I was struggling while I was here, and so I stepped outside and without, you know, providing too many details, and I was just out there by myself on the main house and just sitting there enjoying the view and taking some time. And then, you know, Diane and Sarah came out and checked on me and just, you know, just sat there with me and just talked to me a little bit and asked me how I was doing, and, you know, and just showed me that they just really cared about me as a person. They, you know, they had lots of guests. I don't even know how many guests here that day.
About 80.
Yeah, that's a lot. And so, you know, they showed me that, you know, they truly cared. And that's when I knew, I got to come stay. And so I think a few months later, when there was availability, my wife and I stayed, and we actually stayed in the second house that was built, and forgive me,
PenFed house.
PenFed house. That really helped us because we never had a real transition. You know, I flew out of Africa into Germany, and Germany to Walter Reed, and then it was game on day one. And so we really got to, you know, utilize some of the resources here that actually, you know, helped reintegrated us as a couple. You know, we had been away for about a year, a little over a year, and then, you know, a couple years at the hospital. So, you know, a total of 3 years roughly. And so, you know, and it's just one appointment after another all day long. And my wife was trying to manage time in different locations and, you know, trying to keep the household running, and then trying to be my medical caregiver and go to different appointments. And this just really took, you know, the world off our shoulders to just kind of bring her and I back together and work on us and spend some quality time together, and then bring our families here. So yes, it was really an amazing time, and it gave me some new perspective here, and I really enjoyed it. And so I honestly, I'm glad I'm your co-host, you know, with this, and I can actually, you know, tell the world now, hey, thank you for, you know, all the people and everything that they provided that day, because who knows, you know, you could be somewhere else. You're dealing with other things that you didn't know that you were dealing with, and you were able to get, you know, some support here. So it was amazing. And I got to make sure I say this is family now. You know, once you come here and you spend time and you come back, you are family. Whether you're a service member, a veteran, or a supporter, a volunteer, you are our family. We are family here. And, you know, my wife and I, we truly, even though we're close here and we'd like to come more often, we think about you guys all the time, and we're always curious what's going on, and we always miss everyone. It's just a blessing to come here. So,
well, we're glad you're still in the area and you're able to contribute from whatever fits into your schedule, and it's just great to have. We do have a number of veterans alumni that have stayed with us, that come back and help from time to time with events. And I think of Zach and his wife out in the Midwest and his explosive art program, and he contributes
that's right,
paintings to the gala, and comes out for the gala. That's always fun. So
He and his wife are actually in charge of registration this year at the gala.
We're definitely putting them to work.
wow,
They're volunteers.
Okay.
that's amazing. We get to see them again. You know, that's a nice little trip for them. But I'm glad that we can see them every year, or however long they keep doing that for.
Yeah.
Just great family.
Yeah. So to wrap things up, think about coming out for a tour. If you have a question, email Faith at volunteer@willingwarriors.org. You can call the office Monday through Friday, 9 in the morning till 2, which is 571-248-0008. Go to the webpage, look up events, Beautification Day, sign up for Beautification Day. There's plenty of ways to help. Don't think that we don't have something for you to do, because everything takes volunteers. We give out probably a couple thousand cards a year, but we have to have a volunteer who sits down and looks at each card and makes sure they're appropriate. Sometimes the older kids like to make cards up that have exploding tanks and weird things, so we take those out, but that takes man hours. And so you can contribute, you can help, and please, if you have any questions, reach out to Faith, and she'll get you squared away. She'll get you volunteering. So, well, listen, John, thanks for joining us and co-hosting. That's been great. And Faith, as always, you're just a joy to talk to, really.
Oh, thank you, Larry. I'll
Yeah.
pay you later.
Okay.
Thanks, Larry.
All right.
Bye.
Well, for our listeners, we'll have an episode again next Monday morning at 0500. Until then, if you have any questions or suggestions, you can reach us at podcast@willingwarriors.org. We'll see you in a week. Thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.